Ladies and gentlemen, Kalimera. Good morning from the sunny island of Cyprus. Greetings from the beautiful city of Larnaca and the Cyprus Marine and Maritime Institute, who will be hosting us over the next days. We welcome you to the third Blue Deal Transferring Lab that is organized by the Cyprus Energy Agency, partner of the Blue Deal project, under the auspices of the municipality of Larnaca and in collaboration with the Maritime Institute of Eastern Mediterranean and the partners of the Blue Deal project. Thank you for being with us. Blue Deal is a project implemented in the context of the European Interreg transnational cooperation program and has as its main objective the capitalization of blue energy in the Mediterranean. With a budget of 2.8 million euros, Blue Deal integrates 12 partners from 6 countries and 9 different regions around the Mediterranean who are undertaking action to create a favorable environment for the blue energy deployment. The aim of this particular lab that is organized in Cyprus is to discuss possible scenarios for the development of blue energy in the island of Cyprus and begin a conversation with all interested stakeholders and the general public to ensure sustainable development of marine renewable sources. Through this lab, we aim to develop links and connections with small and medium enterprises, public authorities, knowledge institutions, civil society, in order to establish regional blue alliances that will support the blue energy industry in Cyprus. Kicking off today, we will focus on the policy framework that underpins marine, coastal, and energy activities in Cyprus. Tomorrow, we will highlight the areas in Cyprus where blue energies can be deployed and discuss how such technologies can coexist with other uses of the sea. The third day will be dedicated to industry that will showcase potential funding opportunities as well as innovative SMEs operating in blue energy sphere. Finally, the fourth and ultimate day will discuss how we can promote regional alliances to foster the blue economy. Let me just please note that any questions to the speakers can be addressed by the end of the day during our open discussions. So for those attending online, you can prepare your questions and submit them through the platform of the project. To open our lab, we have the pleasure to have with us, on behalf of the Mayor of Larnaca, the Director of the Technical Department of the municipality, Mr. Andreas Karakatsanis. Mr. Karakatsanis is a civil engineer and through his role as the director of the technical department has been involved in the development of Larnaca into an attractive and welcoming city, work that was awarded at the International Awards for Livable Communities. Mr. Karakatsanis, the floor is yours.
Ladies and gentlemen, I bring you warm greetings from the Mayor of Larnaca and also his apologies that due to another commitment that was prearranged, he cannot be with us today. But he instructed me to read his salutation to the lab, which is follows. It is with great pleasure that I welcome you to Larnaca, a coastal city with maritime history spanning millennia. Recognizing the important role of the blue economy in the economic and social development of our city and our country in general, we adopted from early on the strategy Larnaca Blue City. The objectives of this strategy are twofold. First, the transformation of Larnaca into a regional blue economy, education, training, and research center. And second, the promotion of the European Union's integrated maritime policy in the Larnaca area. Based on this strategy, we have been actively promoting, undertaking, and implementing initiatives and projects that reinforce the infrastructure, image, and position of our city as a center of blue growth. A significant milestone for us has been the creation of the Marine and Maritime Research, Innovation, and Technology Center of Excellence, the Cyprus Marine and Maritime Institute, CMMI, here in Larnaca. CMMI not only aims to shape the marine and maritime research and innovation landscape in Cyprus, it is also a driver for social transformation. Here in the city, we have embraced CMMI as an integral part of our lively community, and we consider it a key player towards achieving our future strategic goals. CMMI constitutes an important pillar in our 2021-2030 Sustainable Urban Development Strategy, which we will further discuss later today. In addition, we are making efforts towards the creation of Marine Park, as our city already constitutes an important touristic destination. This park, in addition to attracting tourists, will be used for environmental research as well, and is designed to bring the people, especially the young generations, closer to the sea, thus encouraging ocean literacy. I'm happy to add to this list of initiatives the hosting in Larnaca of seminars and workshops that promote blue research and innovation activities, such as the one that is taking place this week related to blue energy. I would like to thank the organizers, the Cyprus Energy Agency, the Maritime Institute of Eastern Mediterranean, and the Cyprus Marine and Maritime Institute, which are hosting the workshop. Ladies and gentlemen, we will continue to work hard towards transforming our city, Larnaca, into a blue economy hub through research, innovation, and technology development. In order to achieve this, it is important that we have as many stakeholders on board as possible, so that we learn from each other, develop and optimize our capacities, exploit our strengths, tackle our weaknesses, and grow together. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gargatsanis. Next, we invite on the podium to give us a short welcome the Director of the Cyprus Energy Agency, Mr. Savas Vlachos. Mr. Vlachos is an environmental engineer and energy expert and has extensive experience in energy efficiency, development of sustainable energy action plans for local authorities, and renewable energy technologies. Please, Mr. Vlachos.
Kalimera σε όλους. Good morning, everyone. Dear participants, on behalf of the Cyprus Energy Agency, I would like also to welcome you to the Blue Deal Lab and thank you for joining. I would like also to thank our invited speakers, the Cyprus Marine and Maritime Institute that hosting us for this lab today, and also our Blue Deal collaborators. Blue renewable energies will have an important role for the achievement of EU's 2030 and 2050 sustainability goals. As an energy agency, we do believe that working with stakeholders, policymakers, and civil society organizations is key for joint energy planning that will help meet EU's climate neutrality goals. Therefore, I invite you to actively join the discussions and give us your opinion, know-how, and expertise. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Vlachos. Of course, we could not open the third Blue Deal Transferring Lab without the coordinator of the Blue Deal project, Professor Simone Bastagnoni, who will give us a brief overview of the project. Dr. Bastagnoni is Professor of Environmental and Cultural Heritage Chemistry in the University of Siena in Italy, also the chair of a PhD school in Environmental, Geological, and Polar Science, and president of the Siena Alliance for Carbon Neutrality. Dr. Bastagnoni, good morning from Cyprus. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, everybody, and thanks for to Larnaca City for hosting our lab. I will shortly present the project under which we will hold the next 4 days of laboratory. I don't know if you can see it correctly or not. I believe so. Okay.
Yes, we do.
Okay. I hope you can see the transition of the slides. Can you?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Because sometimes it does it stopped working. in some cases. Okay, so as previously said, we are 12 partners, and this partnership is, I have to say, very, very powerful for the diversity of the skills of the partners that that compensate and each other in the sense that everybody provides different expertise, and it's important, as you will see, for the success of the project, and it will give a hint on how to, let's say, have a suitable group for a better blue energy planning. So this is the only picture basically that we made it to have live the 18th of December 2019. After that, we had to hold all our meetings online, and this is quite unfortunate because I think that it would have been easier and probably better to meet in person and to organize things together. But I have to say that we were really resilient, and we made it to organize anyway good results and provide good results regardless the fact that we were not able to meet in person. So Blue Deal wants to define, test, and disseminate good practices and tools to enable SMEs to start up new businesses in the blue energy sector, and the public administration to improve the procedures for integrating blue energies in national and regional energy policies. The two together are the key for the success of the project and of the future planning. But we want also to involve civil society because we believe that the role of civil society, especially in the development of renewable energy in general, has been neglected for long, and now it's important to involve them if we want to really have a blue energy development. So, as I said, we want to make it to introduce the blue energies in the planning practices in the regional and national energy strategies. And how we do it, you will see tomorrow how let's say the practical part of the laboratories is implemented. We start from the information that we collect at the local level about physical characteristics, the social dynamics, and the legislative context in which the blue energy has to be inserted. Then we highlight where the blue energies can be implemented according to the physical characteristics and the legislation boundaries that we have. We make a quite precise wind power estimation. I mean, it's not at the level of the square meter, but still it's a very, very important estimate. The same for the wave power. So from these two ingredients, then we can have the estimation of the possible outputs that we can have from these renewable sources. We provide an environmental impact assessment of a certain area, or at least we show how to make it in a proper way. Then estimation of the impacts that we will have if we implement the blue energies with a life cycle assessment, and we arrive to assess the energy independence and how much area we need to reach carbon neutrality. And then, especially to make public administrations and policymakers understand how it will look like, the public, citizens, how it will look like, we provide a view from the coast and from the sea of how the coastline will look like, or from the coastline it will look like the area with the blue energy is implemented. Then we have, and we have fully operational in few weeks, a supply-demand portal in which public administrations that want to implement blue energies and the SMEs and enterprise that have to want to provide blue energies technologies will be able to meet supply and demand, as you said. And we will have open days to have more involvement and engagement of citizens and stakeholders. And very important for us is school involvement, because blue energies require also different skills and different types of jobs. So school involvement for us is very, very important. And we will start now, basically, and the next year, with the next year of school, we will see the results of the school involvement. And then citizen opinions count very much for us. And a survey has been performed in all in 9 areas, in 9 regions, to understand the attitude and the perception of the citizens towards blue energies. So we have made interviews, questionnaires, and the survey will serve as a, let's say, a 0 level for policymakers to understand what is the feeling of the citizens. And afterwards, after, for example, the open days, we will see how this knowing more about blue energies, these perception and this attitude will change with time. As a last thing that I present is the regional and transnational blue energy alliances. Alliances are meant as a better word, in a sense, with respect to clusters, because we want alliances in the sense means that also the citizens are involved. And the citizens can become not only, let's say, those that are spectators of what is happening, but protagonists, because they can be owners and shareholders of blue energy devices. So in this sense, we think that the alliances of the quadruple helix stakeholders will be a key point of our project that will start basically from now until the end of the project. And our slogan, I always say, before the Green Deal was invented, we invented this slogan: let's make a blue deal. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Bassanioni. Of course, we're here to make a blue deal. So up next, we give the floor to Mr. Kyriakos Aliouris, head of the Safety Management and Security Section of Shipping Deputy Ministry, who will present the Cyprus Maritime Special Plan Law and the state of play in Cyprus. Mr. Aliouris is the National Coordinator for Integrated Maritime Policy and Maritime Spatial Planning at both European and national level, and is a national expert on this issue as the relevant working groups committees of the European Commission, the European Maritime Safety Agency, and the International Maritime Organization.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for the invitation to this very interesting and promising project. I believe renewable energy is the future for the energy in Cyprus, in line with the Green Deal and the recent Council conclusions and the recent actually announcement of the Commission for Sustainable Blue Economy. My today's presentation, let's see. My today's presentation is divided in 3 parts. In the first part, I brief you about the main provisions of the National Maritime Special Planning Law. In the second, it's about the state of play in Cyprus for MSP. And during the third part, I brief you about a strategic project, the so-called Thalhor 2, which is closely linked with the implementation of the Maritime Special Planning in Cyprus. Without any other delay, let's start with the first part of my presentation, the National MSP Law. The law is titled Maritime Special Planning and Related Matters Law of 2017, Law 144 of 2017, published in the Official Gazette of the Republic on 13th of October, and of course is harmonized with the relevant EU Directive 89 of 2018. Recently, the House of Representatives has adopted an amended law, Maritime Special Planning and Other Related Matters Amendment Law of 2021, Law 34, 2021, published on the Official Gazette on 23 of March, and mainly concerns the transfer of all power and responsibilities for MSP from the Minister of Transport to the Shipping Deputy Minister to the President. Together with the amended law, we have a set of secondary legislation, the so-called Maritime Special Planning Regulations 2021. The first set is Maritime Special Planning Public Consultation Regulations, and the second one, Maritime Special Planning General Provision Regulations, both published in the Official Gazette of the Republic on 26th of March of this year. What is the scope of the law as amended? To establish a framework for the maritime special planning of the Republic of Cyprus aimed at promoting the sustainable growth of maritime economy, the sustainable development of marine waters, and the sustainable use of marine resources. The law applies to the marine waters of the Republic, the territorial waters, contiguous zone, exclusive economic zone, and continental shelf, and the law does not apply to terrestrial space and any activities the sole purpose of which is defense or national security. The law defines 4 MSP competent institutions. The Shipping Deputy Minister to the President is the competent authority for the coordination of all matters related to the MSP in Cyprus. An MSP committee is established. 15 government authorities are taking part to this committee. An interministerial committee is established as well. 8 ministers and deputy ministers are taking part. And finally, the Council of Ministers, which actually is the body that has the overall responsibility, and the final decisions are taken at this level concerning the maritime special planning in Cyprus. Section 8 of the law defines the MSP policy statement. It's a strategic document, a policy document that identifies the key priorities, objectives, and strategic orientations for marine waters that aim at sustainable development. The policy statement takes into account the National Integrated Maritime Policy Strategy, must be approved by the Council of Ministers, and of course is necessary for guiding the development of the National Maritime Special Plan. The competent institutions, when establishing the maritime special planning, shall take into account the particularities of the marine region of the Republic, meaning the particularities of the Eastern Mediterranean, the relevant existing and future activities and uses, and their impacts on the environment, as well as to natural resources and land-sea interactions. The competent institutions shall set up the National Maritime Special Plan, which identifies the spatial and temporal distribution of relevant existing and future activities and uses in the marine waters of the Republic. The Maritime Special Plan must be approved by the Council of Ministers and should be established not later than 31st of March 2021. Unfortunately, this target has not been met due to several factors, and especially due to COVID pandemic prevailing conditions. We have also have to mention that a new target has been set, and we hope that until the first half of 2022, we have the Maritime Special Plan ready and approved by the Council of Ministers. Oops. Now, when setting up Maritime Special Plan, the competent institution shall take into account the objectives of MSP, the minimum requirements for MSP, the relevant interactions of activities and uses, the conflicts between activities and uses, land-sea interactions, public consultation and participation. Public consultation and participation are very important for the preparation of the policy statement and, of course, for the development of the National Maritime Special Plan. Data use and sharing, again, a very important element. Better data, better knowledge, better policy decisions, better planning. And finally, cooperation among member states and with third countries. And of course, cooperation with third countries in our area is very challenging, taking into account, having in mind the political unstable condition in our area. Now, let's see the approval procedure for the policy statement and the Maritime Special Plan. Both are developed by the MSP committee and then are submitted to the competent authority, to the shipping deputy minister, to the president, and by its turn to the interministerial committee for pre-approval, and finally to the Council of Ministers for final approval. Okay. Now, Section 22 of the law defines the confirmation of compliance or the confirmation of compatibility. This confirmation is necessary for any use or activity in the marine waters of the Republic and is issued by the MSP Committee. The confirmation of compliance is related to any use or activity that is provided at a particular marine area by the Maritime Special Planning Force. Instead, the confirmation of compatibility concerns any use or activity that is not provided at any marine area by the Maritime Special Planning Force, but is compatible with the policy statement and the general philosophy of the Maritime Special Plan. Here we are talking about any use or activity in the marine waters which has significant economic and or social and or environmental added value. Now we'll see the licensing procedure for a maritime activity or use which is regulated under existing legislation, meaning there is an existing legislation regulating the licensing and there is an existing licensing national authority. In this case, the applicant must submit an application to the MSP committee. The MSP committee after examining the application, will issue a confirmation of compliance or a confirmation of compatibility, and then the applicant must submit the confirmation together with his application to the competent licensing authority under existing legislation for further processing of the application and for the issuance of the relevant license for this activity or use. Now, the procedure for licensing a marine activity or use which is not regulated under existing legislation, according to Section 24 of the law, is the following. Again, the applicant must submit an application to the MSP committee. The MSP committee will issue a confirmation of compliance or a confirmation of compatibility. Then, the MSP committee must form a proposal that must be submitted to the Council of Ministers for issuing the relevant license to this activity or use. It's troubling me, but okay, let's move to the second part of my presentation, the MSP state of play in Cyprus. Recently, a public consultation has been initiated with relevant stakeholders and the public on the draft national MSP policy statement that has been prepared by the MSP committee. This public consultation is according to the relevant provisions of the public consultation regulations that have been recently approved by the House of Representatives, as I said before. A relevant MSP committee notification is published in the official Gazette of the Republic on 14th of May. The consultation period started on 14th of May and will be ended on 14th of July, 60 days as per the relevant provisions of the said regulations. And the policy statement together with the relevant study and other documentation are available on the Greek version of the SDM webpage. And I kindly ask you to visit our webpage and would like to receive your comments, your suggestions, in order to form and to finalize the policy statement that will be submitted to the Council of Ministers. Now, concerning the preparation of the Maritime Special Plan, several procedural steps have been already completed and developed. Some others are still under process. Data collection and updating, analysis of existing conditions have been completed, data portal completed as well, developed as well. Future conditions, special and temporary conflicts and compatibilities are under development, under process, and the next step are the proposals for the plan, the Maritime Special Plan proposals. Now, let's see the time frame for setting up the Maritime Special Plan. As I have already said, May, July 2021, public consultation on MSP. July, August, the finalization of policy statement based on the outcome of the public consultation. Then September, approval of the policy statement by the Interministerial Committee and finally by the Council of Ministers. The next step, September, October, setting up preparation actually of the draft MSP plan. November, December, approval of the plan by the MSP committee. In December, the MSP committee must develop the draft strategic environmental impact assessment for the draft plan. Then January, February 2022, public consultation on the impact assessment and on the draft plan. March 2022, finalization of the strategic environmental impact assessment and of the draft maritime special plan. Next step, April, submission of the environmental impact assessment to the environmental authority for its approval, and following the approval by the environmental authority, the final step, which is during May and June 2022, the approval of the Maritime Special Plan by the Council of Ministers. And as soon as the plan is approved, then we have to submit it to the European Commission. Now, a few words about a strategic project, the cross-border cooperation for the implementation of Maritime Special Planning, acronym FALCOR2, is under Interreg Greece Cyprus 2014-2020. The project concerns a cross-border cooperation for MSP implementation. It is a strategic project because it goes beyond national borders. Between national competent institutions, 3 public entities, 2 from Cyprus and 1 from Greece, are taking part. And also this project is supported by scientists. 3 scientific institutions are partners to the project. Here you can see the institutional pole of the project. The shipping deputy minister is the lead partner. the Department of Land and Survey of Ministry of Interior, and the Ministry of Environment and Energy of Greece, which is the competent authority for the MSP in Cyprus, in Greece, sorry. Here you can see the scientific pole, the University of Aegean of Greece, Cyprus University of Technology, and Oceanographic Center of University of Cyprus. The project of the fund of the project is 2.57 million euros. 85% of these funds are coming from the Interreg Cooperation Program with Cyprus, 2014-2020. The rest, 15% by national funds of Cyprus and Greece. Duration of the project, September 2018 until August 2021. Of course, here we have again delays due to pandemic, and we have already requested an extension of the project to the competent authorities in Greece for at least a year. The main objective of the project, as we have already mentioned, a joint development and establishment of draft national or regional maritime special plans in Cyprus and in Greece. And here we can see some actions that will be undertaken in the framework of the project: analysis and mapping of marine and coastal space by presenting the current situation, enrichment, updating of marine databases with new data or updated data, development, updating of WebGIS for displaying data, preparation of policy statement on MSP of Cyprus. We have already seen this issue before. Specialization of the Greek spatial planning policy in the framework of MSP, and of course, establishment of national or regional maritime special plans in Cyprus and Greece. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ariouris. To present the roadmap and targets for renewable energy for 2030 in Cyprus, we invite on the podium Mr. Iosis Spiridis, Inspector of Commerce and Industry of the Energy Service of the Ministry of Energy, Commerce and Industry. Mr. Spiridis has 15 years' experience in the broader areas of renewable energy and energy conservation and has been involved in the preparation and implementation of government schemes for the promotion of renewable energy in electricity and in studies for the development in renewable energy sources in Cyprus towards 2030 and 2050. The floor is yours, Mr. Spiridis.
Good morning, everyone. I'm very happy to be here and present the roadmap for renewable energy. I will take no further delays and move into the presentation. Okay, this is the main targets for 2030. As you can see on the left, we have the target is the total renewable energy shares are divided between heating and cooling, which accounts about 75% of renewables in Cyprus by 2030. Electricity, which is another 21%. But that also includes electricity and electrical transport, as you can see. And another 4% is purely on transport. As you can see there, the electricity sector comprises of photovoltaics, wind systems, and biomass, whereas the heating and cooling sector comprises of solar thermal, heat pumps, wood biogas, geothermal technologies. On the transport side, we're simply remain with the known technologies of biofuels and renewable electricity. And that should get us to 23% by 2030. So this is the overall target. And this is a trajectory of how the targets are expected to be achieved. Renewable electricity is one of the main is one of the main areas of interest for many investors in Cyprus. However, there is an important aspect to heating and cooling, which mainly relates to buildings and process heat, which is a totally different type of technology that most people are aware of. The transport is one of the most difficult sectors, and it always remains at a low share, mainly due to the costs related with electric cars, plus the fact that biofuels are not produced in Cyprus and they have to be imported. This is something that, as I will say later, you will see later, is one of the priorities of the Republic. Now, I should note, and you can see that on the graph on the left, on the right side, there is two scenarios in the Cyprus NECP. One includes an electrical interconnection. The first scenario, though, does not include the electrical interconnection. And as you can see, the target is totally different with electrical interconnection, because the electrical interconnection can potentially make Cyprus an energy exporter of electricity due to cheap energy produced from renewable energy in Cyprus. And plus, the electrical interconnection is essential to solve many grid issues that the ability of the grid today, because of the size and isolation of the system, is quite limited. Okay, yeah, and on the bottom, just came up, is the minimum capacity of per technology on in the first scenario without the interconnection. With the interconnection, the photovoltaics, for example, they changed to somewhere around 1600 megawatts. Okay, and this is the current status of renewable energy in Cyprus. As you can see, there is 427.7 megawatts of installed capacity, and they comprise of three technologies: wind, PV, and biomass. Under construction from a scheme we had in 2018, we have another 30 megawatts. These are expected to be completed by the end of the year. And there is far more from the 2019 scheme, 236.3 megawatts. That's expected to be installed and constructed and operated within the next 18 months. Also, there is a good expectation for new installations for net metering and net billing systems. We expect around 20 megawatts per year. Now, we have to mention, of course, the EU Directive 2001 of 2018. It is the promotion and encouragement of the utilization of renewable energy directive. We translated to a law of a similar name. There is several articles that are very important to this to promote renewable energy. Because I think we're time limited, I will not speak specifically on each one, but I will go directly to the next slide, which gives us the highlights. Okay, it's very important to note that the Renewables Directive goes hand in hand with three other directives, in fact. The Electricity Market Regulation and the Electricity Market Directive, they go together. There is also the directive for the sustainability of biofuels and the promotion of biofuels, but there is also an overall umbrella regulation, which is the Energy Union Governance, which is mostly done in cooperation with the Department of Environment. But in the highlights of what is to change, and this is something that's included in both directives. And this is something, for example, today we have schemes to regulate this right of the consumer, but soon it is expected that we shouldn't have the schemes. It should be a right that should be included in the overall market regulation. It should not require, for example, a scheme or self-consumers in apartment buildings. This has been a problem. We know that in apartment buildings, consumers living in apartment buildings were kind of had an issue because there's only so much energy that can be produced at the building on site, and this was never enough for the whole households. And this is something that the directives ask us to regulate again. There should be any disproportionate procedures or non-representative charges. This is something that was a problem throughout Europe, and it was included in the directive. No network operator or owner can provide disproportionate charges for self-consumers, especially. There is specific provisions in all the directives on energy communities, and in this case we have two different types of communities. One is renewable energy communities, whereas the other one is energy communities, citizen energy communities. One is related, the latter is only related to electrical energy, and it is not necessarily 100% renewable energy. Whereas renewable energy communities can be either electricity or any other form of energy, but it must be 100% renewable. I think these two go hand in hand, and we expect that as soon as the law is approved from Parliament, expectedly this summer, right after, there should be a new regulation on renewable energy communities and energy communities. So, and the last part of the highlights in the new directive is the improved guarantees of origin for a better consumer information. For those that are familiar with the guarantees of origin, this was a tool laid down by the European Union, I think 15 or 16 years ago, that was aiming for the suppliers of energy to identify their energy mix. And they did that through the guarantees of origin. Okay, the guarantees of origin have not had the progress expected during this period, but now there is new provisions for the guarantees of origin within the new directive. Now it's not only electricity, they will include the other forms of energy as well. Plus, it is expected that the new provisions for a more, say, non-voluntary disclosure of the energy mix will provide better boost for this policy. And this in turn provides also an income for the energy producers from renewables. Okay. Okay, the priorities of the renewable energy, other than the harmonization with the EU directives, first of all is the one-stop shop for renewable energy projects. This is provided for in the Renewable Energy Directive. It's Article 15, if I remember well. What that requires is it sets a framework and a time limit to all authorities from the conception to the operation of the plan. And the total is about 2 years for big plants and 1 year for smaller ones. And there is a provision for extreme cases of getting an extension of a year, but as it says in the directive, is extreme cases or court cases, in case of court cases. Now, the next is renewable energy communities, which I already told you that it's something that will be discussed as soon as the new legislation is finalized. Third is the strategic environmental impact assessment for the special planning of renewable energy project. This is something that is both the need for this environmental impact assessment study comes from both a legislation and based on the requirements from the Department of Environment. And I have a slide right after this after the one-stop shop. Okay. Because it is important, I left a whole slide for it. The permit procedure is divided into it's actually 4 permits that are actually required for a RES project. One is the regulator's part, the energy regulator. The second has to do with the procedures for the special planning license, as well as the building license, or building permit, if you prefer the terminology. And the fourth is the grid connection, which is a painstaking, very time-consuming procedure. Now, the aim of the directive is to have a single contact point to guide any interested party that wishes to invest in renewable energy. And it requires that the applicant can electronically submit the application. We are already in a discussion with the Department of IT Services of the government, and we're trying to exploit what tools are already available and operational. An example, as a note there, is Ariadne, and the Podamus, which is the new system developed for submitting and processing applications for the spatial planning, and I think building permits. I'm not sure if the building permit is already included, but they're planning to also include the building permit process. We expect that this should limit needed administrative obstacles. For example, since it is a single process, single database system, it provides all the certificates, documents available to any competent authority that might require it. And at the very end, we're including a financing tool for mature projects. This will be a very simple tool. Basically, it will be the first link between a financier and a project promoter. That will be included after all licenses are already acquired. It will be simply a link between a financier that wants, and they will just make the first contact, and then these people can go ahead and discuss among them the terms of the financing. But it is something that, you know, financiers are looking for projects. They don't know who the projects are, whereas project promoters are seeking financiers and they don't know who they are. This is just a chance, whoever is interested, to get to know each other. Okay, the strategic environmental impact assessment study. The previous one was in 2009 to 2010. It was based on the National Renewable Energy Plan of 2010-2020. So this one required updating because of the new NECP. A new strategic assessment was done for the NECP. However, it was one of the results and one of the conclusions require that we do a special planning in particular, because there were increased complaints from both RES developers and other stakeholders like agricultural unions, environmental agencies, that we needed to address the issues in particular in more detail. So there had been some inconsistencies, for example, between government departments. There was an increased shift from wind technologies to solar PV because of the differences in the technologies over the last decade. There was a lack of monitoring tools, but at the same time, there is new emerging technologies that had to be taken into consideration. The expected outcomes, of course, it's a new impact assessment study. We have to evaluate the new geographical trends, the spatial trends, where the new technologies are going to be, or where the trend is for new projects. We need to provide a new monitoring methodology in order to have the future actions. We need to identify locations near the grid. And we need to have a new regulation for special planning. I forgot to mention that the old regulation came out in 2006. And it was mainly targeted towards wind systems. It was okay for wind systems, but when it came to PV, it didn't take some things into account that normally it should have. So this is another reason for the updating of this impact assessment study. Okay, the main policies and measures of the ministry would be the support for projects under 1 megawatt, and this should go mainly towards the energy communities project. I know it's a bit small, so I hope the administrators will also distribute the presentation later on. There is also one of the main policies is to continue the net metering and net billing schemes. That's the self-consumption schemes that I talked about earlier. Promoting high-efficiency heat pumps, solar thermal in business and the replacement of solar hot water in houses. Solar thermal is also a new technology. The promotion of solar thermal for process heat is also another objective. Okay, but recording and monitoring the use of biomass, autonomous RES systems, and heat pumps, that's another issue. The heat pumps is something that has been able to give us a boost in our renewable energy from for heating and cooling. The boost came from heat pumps, and that's why it's the share of renewable energy in the heating and cooling section is 75%, as I showed you in the first slide. Now, the one-stop shop, as I said, is a priority. Now, due to the electricity interconnection and the delays in the implementation, we have to accelerate and basically bring 5 or 6 years earlier the energy storage implementation. Normally, in the NECP, storage was to be implemented in 2028 to 2030, but because the interconnector is delayed, it has to come back earlier. So, and the way we cannot know if the interconnector is actually going to be constructed in the end. It's not related to government decision. It's a private initiative. So now, some other ambitious policies would be to increase the carbon tax and further promote self-consumption with other measures. Okay, this is the 3 EU initiatives for financing of new projects that we're currently taking part in, as all of Europe: the Recovery and Resilience Fund, Just Transition Fund, and the Research Projects and Structural Funds. Because of time limits, I will not speak specifically throughout this, but I have to also mention something because, of course, this is about offshore issues, and I will speak of the presentation. This is the contact details. Offshore energy was not included in does not come up in the NECP. The reason behind that is because NECP and the technologies are chosen using a linear programming, a mixed integer linear programming method, which basically is a computerized model, an algorithm to provide the cheapest technologies to reach the target. So it was included in the initial database, but the model never chose offshore renewables because of the high investment costs related to this technology. And this was in line with the EU reference model that they also prepared in order to cross-check Cyprus NECP. Since this is going to be revised every 2 or 3 years, okay, we expect that if we have new data related to offshore wind or any other offshore technology, please be free to share it with us if you have other data, so that we can include updated data inside our model. This way, if the costs are reduced, they have a better chance of making up the NECP. Plus, one of the main concerns that the Energy Service has always had on offshore renewables has been the sea depth of Cyprus and the limited potential, which, as I heard from you, there is actually some potential in Cyprus, which was not known to us until recently. So we are following up your project with great interest. And I think I want to wish you good luck in supporting the data, and we look forward to it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Spiridis. For the next presentation, we invite on the podium once again Mr. Andreas Karakatsanis. Mr. Karakatsanis will share with us Larnaka's Sustainable Urban Development Strategy for the period 2021-2030.
Ladies and gentlemen, hello again. I will briefly present the Larnaca Sustainable Urban Development Plan for the years 2021 to 2030. First of all, I must make clear that the Larnaca Sustainable Plan doesn't include only the city of Larnaca. It includes all the surrounding municipalities and areas, so it's a metropolitan area plan. To develop it, it was a difficult, complex, and long task that difficult it was in order to convince the mayors of the neighboring municipalities, Aradipu, Livadia, Meneudromo, Laksha, and the community of Oroklini, and also the municipality of Athienu to join us in a common task of developing a sustainable strategy. Complex it was because it involved a lot of data gathering and data analysis and complex analysis to come up with the result. And long it was because it started in February last year. It was supposed to be submitted to the central government by July last year, but due to the COVID pandemic, it was first postponed until August, and then it postponed until November, and finally it was postponed until January, and it was submitted in January this year. Now, the development plan resulted in the vision for the metropolitan area of Larnaca, which is Larnaca is a resilient metropolitan area providing high-quality living for all its citizens and promoting knowledge and innovation. Larnaca is at the crossroads of land, sea, and air, history and culture. Larnaca aims to combine urban living with sustainable tourism and the blue economy for a bright future. How do we achieve this vision? Is by following three different, distinct but converging routes. Larnaca Blue City, Larnaca Green City, and Larnaca a city for its citizens, a human city. These three pillars. Larnaca Blue City, first of all. We achieved Larnaca Blue City by the steps, first by supporting the promotion of a quadruple helix in blue economy, by promotion of the sustainable tourism, and by investing in marine and maritime culture. Larnaca Green City, we achieved that by promoting urban resilience, by providing more green spaces and green corridors, and by encompassing and adapting sustainable mobility. Larnaca, a human-centered city, we achieved that by upgrading and supporting social networks and infrastructure, by balanced and sustainable economic and urban development, and by state-of-the-art effective governance, which is so important nowadays. So, the purpose of the strategy is to promote sustainable and balanced development through coordinated actions, addressing the complex needs and challenges of today's world, and specifically of our region, that being economic challenges, social challenges, demographic or environmental challenges. The plan focuses on 4 different distinct areas. First of all, the city center, the historical city center. Larnaca is number 17 in the world as the most ancient cities that completely have been inhabited for the last 4,000 years. And we're very proud of that. We have a very compact and beautiful historic center. So that was our first part to focus on. The second was the environs of the city center is deprived areas with few refugee campus and refugee settlements that have also demographic and sociocultural problems. The third was the coastal areas, which is the sustainable tourism and blue economy area. And the last one was the suburban areas, which includes the other peripheral municipalities and communities. So the actions to deliver Larnaca Blue City, if I made this now. We mentioned before that to deliver Larnaca as a blue city is to support and promote the quadruple helix in the blue economy. The outcome of that is to increase the number of innovative companies in blue economy, to increase the R&D in blue economy, to open innovation and regional cooperation with third countries and third cities in blue economy, and to promote innovation clusters in the blue economy. The actions are the creation of research and technology centers in blue economy, creation of new professions, sectors, and jobs in the blue economy, creation of infrastructure in support of the blue economy, and funding to support innovation and competitiveness in the blue economy sector. Now, the first action was the creation of research and technology centers in blue economy. The Larnaca municipality supported as being the lead partner of a project that resulted in the creation of the Cyprus Marine and Maritime Institute in 2019. CMMI has rapidly embraced by the city and became an integral part of the community, and it's a key player towards achieving our vision of becoming a blue city. Now, CMMI vision and mission. The vision is to drive sustainable blue growth, as simple as that. And mission is to be driven by the needs of the industry and the society. The objectives of CMMI include all priorities and are aligned with national, European, and international policy priorities and agendas. For example, the EU Green Deal, the EU's Mission Starfish 2030, EU's Integrated Maritime Policy, and you see all the others. And last but not least, the Larnaca Blue City Strategy, which is, that's why we are so connected with CMMI as a municipality, because we consider it an important part in achieving our vision. Now, CMMI aims to tackle all 5 global challenge clusters that the marine and maritime industry faces today, which is the maritime trade and transport, marine bioresources, energy and subsea resources, climate and the environment, and society and governance. For that, the CMMI has created already 10 very active projects, REMUS, as we call it, which is the Knowledge, Innovation and Entrepreneurship Center, the Cyprus Marine Observation Network, Marine Robotics Innovation Center, Maritime Digitalization Center, Marine and Offshore Science, Technology and Engineering Center, Marine and Coastal Ecosystem Center, Maritime Human Element Center, Marine Cultural Heritage Center, Center for the Marine and Maritime Policy Research and Regional Cooperation, and Underwater and Seabed Technologies Center. So these 10 centers are already up and running, and they're very active and started producing some results already. So that's very briefly, and I'll be at your disposal for any questions later on. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gargatsanis. Up next is Ms. Joanna Konstantinidou, First Environment Officer at the Department of the Environment of the Ministry of Agriculture, Rural Development and Environment, who will discuss integrated coastal zone management with a particular focus on energy. Since 2004, in the framework of her role as an environment officer, Ms. Konstantinidou has worked on incorporation of sustainable development principles in government plans and programs as part of the strategic environmental assessment process and on the sustainable development of coasts through the process of integrated coastal zones management. Ms. Konstantinidou, we're all ears.
Thank you. Good morning, and from myself, thank you for inviting us to present our national strategy on coastal zone management and what actions the Department of Environment is undertaking to implement this policy in Cyprus. I start with some figures from the European Environment Agency to have a more broad view of what is happening in the coast. Coastal zone, as defined by the European Environment Agency, is a strip of 10 kilometers from the coastline. And as we can see on the map on the left is the population density in 2000. Forgive me. So it's the population density in 2001. As you can see, with bright colors are the low density, and as we go with the dark colors is the density with more than 500 population in the area. This map shows how the coastal zones are important for the population in all the Mediterranean countries, even in the Baltic countries. So the next map shows the percentage of the artificial coastline in 2000 and very properly. Anyway, as we can see from the map, Cyprus is below 15% of the artificial coastline, relevant to the other Mediterranean countries like Italy or France or Spain, who has more than 45% of the artificial land. So this map shows the Natura 2000 designated size. So as you can see, Cyprus has below 25% of Natura 2000 sites along the coast, and in relevance with the other countries in EU, this figure shows that most of the countries has more designated areas. The dark color, the dark green, shows that 50 up to 100% are designated as Natura 2000 site as protected areas. So the Copernicus, all of you familiar with Copernicus. We, as the Department of Environment, provide input to the Copernicus for the Greenland cover. The last input was in 2018. So as we have this strip of coastline, as you can see in main areas, how I pinpoint with the red one. Okay. Sorry about this. So as you can see with the dark red are the main coastal cities, starting from the east, from Augusta area, then is Larnaca area, Limassol area, and Paphos area with the rest, with the red dots. And the rest of the areas are mainly green areas, as you can see with the green color, and irrigated areas with the yellow color. So having in mind the policy statement beyond the mainly the energy projects can be located in these irrigated areas, in these yellow areas. So they more or less are these areas as shown on the map. So some figures on the state of the coast in Cyprus. The coastline covers 772 kilometers, but only 38% is under the governmental control. The rest are occupied areas or British sovereign base. 3 out of the 4 cities are coastals. We are all familiar with this. 50% of the population lives and works in the coast. As we have seen from the maps, it's a very populated density areas in the coast. After the invasion, we faced some huge touristic development in the coastal areas, especially in the decade between 1980 and 1990. 90% of the tourist industry was developed in these areas. 40 up to 60% of the GDP refers to the coastal economic activities. So far, we designated 15 coastal areas under the Natura 2000 site. And lately, we have, in 2021, we have 120 coastal bathing areas to be monitored by the Department of Environment under the EU Bathing Water Directive. And as you are familiar with this, recently we are awarded along with Malta and some other countries as the best countries in EU with clean bathing waters. Out of which 69 are awarded with blue flag. These figures were taken from the last national strategy we developed as a Department of Environment, and I'm showing you that the urban coastal area in Cyprus is 30%, rural coastal area 15%, 36%, as I've shown you in the figures before, is a tourist development area, and we have 90% of protected coastal area. All of them are sum up to 2,996 kilometers of coastal zone. So regarding the planning system in Cyprus, in the coastal zones, we have 45% of protected zones. It's a very big percentage. Almost 9% of agricultural zones, 31% of touristic zones, housing commercial zones, 9%, industrial zones, 3%, and other zones, 3.5%. All of them are summed up into this map. This map was developed, I have referred before, under the national strategy for the ICZM, and although it's very small, but having circulated the presentation, you can zoom in and you can identify the colors. The colors with pink are the populated housing areas. The yellow is the irrigated areas, and the green are the green areas. As you can see on the west, there is a big area, the Akamas Peninsula in Paphos area, with green. It's a green area, which is under development, and the Department of Forests is developing the forestry plan for this area, a plan for a national park. So it's under assessment at the Department of Environment, the Strategic Environmental Assessment report. Also, the Department of Town Planning is has developed the planning system for the Agamas areas. It's a very important area due to the natural beauty of this area. So we have also the Strategic Environmental Assessment report under assessment at the moment. So the legal framework, the Department of Environment, as I referred before, is the focal point for these policies. The Integrated Coastal Zone Management Protocol in the Mediterranean is the seventh protocol under the Barcelona Convention, is the last one. The protocol entered into force in 2011. So far, 11 countries in the EU have entered into force under this protocol. Unfortunately, Cyprus has not ratified or has not developed any law to transpose this protocol, to enforce this protocol. But we are in the process of entering into force after having several years of negotiations with the Ministry of Interior. But we are implementing the provisions of these protocols, and we will see later on what provisions we implement so far. In 2002, the recommendation of the European Parliament, since the Maritime Special Planning Directive, we have not any implementation of these recommendations. It's more or less recommend. It's not obligatory for the member states, but after having the Maritime Special Planning Directive, this, let's say, recommendation is not in place anymore. So we have legislative tools. These tools I referred before that enhance the member states, call the member states to develop national strategies for implementing the ICCTM. And I will show now what strategy we have developed so far. So the first strategy was developed in 2006, 2008, with the cooperation with the Department of Environment in Cyprus and the PAPRAC, the regional center of the UNEP map. The objective was to enhance the existing coastal policies. As you are familiar, coastal zone has many policies and many stakeholders, and we try to elaborate in these policies and coordinate all these policies and actors who have a stake on the coast. We use 6 methodological tools: the Integrated Coastal Area Management, the Sustainability Analysis and Indicators, Biodiversity Concerns, Strategic Environmental Assessment, Carrying Capacity Assessment, Environmental Economics. For each one of these activities, we have a national and international expert and a group of teams, mainly with departments, local authorities, and so on. The main key role played the municipality of Larnaca. Mr. Andreas Kakatsanis is aware of this project because the project was implemented in Larnaca. We chose Larnaca at that time because of the different pressures in the coast. We have the Salt Lake near to the Larnaca airport, areas like Parboya in the north, with touristic areas, And we have also many other areas under development in Larnaca city. The main outputs of the camp was the adoption and application of the proposed Integral Coastal Area Management Strategy framework within the context of the island plan. As you're familiar, island plan is a plan that we wish to have in place for many years now, but due to the national, let's say, issue of the divided island, we can't enforce this island plan, but we have the local plans and the countryside policy in place. Use of methods suggested by or similar to Imagine. Imagine is a tool for public consultation, public participation. So we use this Imagine tool in several coastal management to aware about the environment. Development and application of the coastal and marine biodiversity strategies. So we have in place now the biodiversity strategy is revised and we up to 2030 in line with the different policies under EU. Incorporation of the SCA process in spatial planning system. We are assessing several SCA reports for the local plans, the coastal local plans, Larnaca, Limassol, Famagusta area, and now I have said before the Acamas area. Incorporate carrying capacity assessment in the spatial planning system. We incorporate now the carrying capacity assessment in the touring strategy up to 2030, and is still under preparation. And incorporate environmental economics tools in the environmental planning process. Some pictures at that time, you can see the workshops and the different meetings we have had. After the Camp Cyprus, we have the second strategy, the National ICCDM strategy that was developed recently in 2016 up to 2018, a 2 years projects that cover the 10 years period up to 2028. A consortium was in place at that time to develop this strategy. As you can see here, the ALA Planning Partnership Consultants in the Boulandris Natural History Museum in Greece. 75% of the project was funded by the Fisheries Fund. The whole project cost was 188,000 euros, and several stakeholders at that time were consulted and put their knowledge into this strategy, among them the Deputy Ministry of Shipping, the Department of Town Planning, the Ministry of Energy, and so the municipalities, local authorities, and so on. The overall objectives of this strategy is to adopt of an integrated coastal planning and management combined with better coordination of all processes and relevant actors of policy mechanisms. This is the main outcome of this strategy, how to coordinate all these processes and laws and regulations and actors have a stake on the coastal zone in order to ensure sustainable development in the coastal zone. The outcomes of this national strategy to examine the Camp Cyprus program, as I showed before, the first national strategy, define the landward limit. I will show you later on how the landward limit was defined with using a multi-criteria analysis of vector structure and mechanisms to identify the gaps and interlinkage between the policies and so on, and find the best way to cooperate and to elaborate further our relationship for the coastal zone management, formulate the national licensing strategy, the action plan, and of course the SAA report. We use several guidelines to implement, especially you can see here the guidelines of the TAPRAC, how to develop this strategy. So as you can see here, we define actually the landward limit of the coastal zone, having in mind a multi-criteria analysis with criteria of natural environment, landscape, cultural environment, socioeconomic environment, and a distance from up to 5 kilometers on the coast. As you can see on the map, the red line is the landward limit, and the blue line is the seaward limit of 12 nautical miles. So between the two limits, we develop the national licensing strategy. As you can see here on this coastal strip, the different green colors shows the stake and the importance of the coastal zone. So as you can see, the dark green color is more important adjacent to the coast, and as we go inland is less and less important for the citizens. So we develop this multi-criteria analysis, and we have questionnaires, and we ask for several. Oops. So the development of the coastal zone of Cyprus, the strategy, the vision is to have social well-being and security, balanced economic development, preservation of ecosystem and capacity to provide goods and services, while highlighting historical and cultural health. We have also some strategic objectives. You can see here what are the main strategic objectives. Underneath of each, we identified actions to be developed up to 2028. You can see here what are the main targets and strategy objectives of ICC's strategy. So the action plan, the timeline, we extended the timeline up to 2030 to be in line with several other strategies. The preliminary budget is 5 million euros. We have 115 indicators to assess the strategy. We have 40 strategic actions. To implement this action plan, that refers to studies, guidelines, legal institutional actions, economic and fiscal measures, awareness raising, training, education and research, transponder international cooperation mechanism. So far, although this action plan is under consultation and with some key members, we will implement this strategy to the Council of Ministers for approval, and after its approval, we will start implementing the strategy. So far, we are trying to elaborate some actions to have some to implement them in the near future. So we consulted with some key stakeholders for the establishment of a national committee with responsibilities of integrated planning and licensing of project activities in the coastal zone. This committee will be in line with the Maritime Special Planning Committee that Mr. Aliouris referred before. Evaluation of the limit of the foreshore protection zone. We are in close collaboration with the Department of Town Planning to revise this foreshore protection zone to be in line with the ICZM protocol. We provide them with some criteria to develop a vulnerable study for revising this protection zone. So far, this protection zone, the maximum is 90 meters from the coast, 92 actually from the coast, 100 yards. A review of the spatial planning and urban planning framework in the coastal zone, having in mind the relevant local plans developed for several coastal cities. We try to incorporate a specific chapter on the coastal zone under this local plan. We have recently incorporated a special chapter on the coastal zone at the local plan of area Famagusta. Ratification of the ICZM protocol. We have in place several procedures to do this. Adoption of a national strategy of particular importance of the coastal zone. We have also the climate change strategy, the energy strategy, and also many other strategies in place, the tourism strategy, and so on. Update of Natura 2000 area management plans, evaluation of results applied to erosion control measures, implementation of measures related to climate change. And least but not last, we have the specific action on the energy field. We don't have any on this field on this action as identified under the action plan of the ICZM strategy. We promote sustainable projects and activities in the field of energy and industry, mainly focus on the hydrocarbon exploration and extraction activities, awareness campaigns for the public and professionals to save energy, information campaign and action plan for energy saving through energy upgrading of buildings. But we are in your disposal to feed us with knowledge on the onshore and offshore renewable energy sources in line with the upcoming maritime spatial plan and other relevant projects or policy that my colleagues before referred to in order to elaborate this action and incorporate your results. Lastly, I provide you with some actions the Department of Environment is undertaking through the ICZM. Informing the public, we have International Coast Day, 25th of September. We have 2 years ago, we have the Coast Day hosted in Cyprus, in Ayanaba. All the Mediterranean countries were here to promote our strategy. Radio and press releases as well. Implementation of the ICZM action plan, I referred to this before. New governance structure for the ICZM is under the Council of Ministers to be approved. Participation in several committees, Marine Spatial Planning, Central Coastal Committee, the UNEP and the EA meetings. I have said this before, the ICZM provision in the policy statement and the local plans, in the national strategies as well, climate change, tourism, coastal protection, renewable energy, and of course, we are in the process of signing an agreement between Cyprus and Israel to have a transboundary program on the coastal management. Thank you. For more information, you can visit our website. All the information I refer to you are uploaded in our website, so you can have more information about this, or email to me or call me whenever you have time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Konstantinidou, and thank you to all the speakers for your interesting presentations. We're now ready to begin a dialogue with all our participants and reply to any questions. For those attending the event online, I remind you that you can submit your questions via the chat box on the project's platform. For the moderation of the open discussion, I invite on the podium Mr. Savas Lajos and Mr. Angelos Chtoris. Mr. Chtoris is a researcher at the Maritime Institute of Eastern Mediterranean. A naval architect and marine engineer, he has over the last 7 years participated in more than 15 projects dealing with all blue economy sectors.
Hi, from my side as well. I would like to thank once again our presenters for being here. And I've checked a few minutes ago, almost 100 people are watching us in Europe. So thank you all for being here with us today. Let me see if we have some questions from the audience, or we will proceed with a discussion here. Firstly, since we have Mr. Karagatsanis with us today, I would like to ask that many developments occur in the city of Larnaca over the last years, and the municipality also challenged the research industry to provide solutions by utilizing the blue energy in the city. What are the expectations of the municipality for the next years, taking also into account the establishment of CMI here in Cyprus for utilizing?
Very interesting question. Is it on? Well, at the moment we cannot say that we have a plan to include blue energy into new buildings. We have to see ways of transmitting maybe wave energy into giving energy to new buildings closer to the coast. We already have photovoltaics for some of the energy of the buildings. We're trying to implement wind energy as well. Blue energy is not very, very common at the moment, and we'll try to include that into our rules and regulations for new buildings closer to the coast.
Okay. We have a question from the platform. I think it's about the project. I suppose Blue Deal. What about mobility projects in the development of the project? I don't know.
We may address this question directly to the project coordinator, or is it a question about?
I'm not sure if we can have a clarification on the project development, if Mr. Labrinos is referring to the project Blue Deal or any other that.
Mobility wasn't part of the focus of the project Blue Deal, but if the question is for any of the projects of Larnaca or strategies presented by other speakers, please clarify in order to address this question. Please, Luisa.
Hello. If we are discussing about whether we have considered the use of blue energy in mobility, we have done so indirectly. As part of the Blue Deal project, we have developed what are known as open innovation challenges. And through every single project partner has discussed with certain entities some of their challenges. One of the challenge in one of the cities of the Blue Deal has requested that a solution provider consider how blue energy can be utilized in order to also support electrification within a coastal city. So one of the challenges that has been put forward is, can we integrate marine renewable energies and provide electric charging points in coastal cities? So we are looking at it in an indirect manner through that way, yes.
We got a clarification here that Mr. Almirot was referring to Mrs. Konstantinidou's presentation in the development of the coastal zone management, I suppose. If you have also taken into consideration mobility projects in forming the plan.
Yes, with regards to the question, it's we identified some actions related to the transport for enhancing the transport along the coast, especially in line with the provision of the Coastal Zone Management Protocol, but we have not identified any mobilities actions as the question referred to.
Okay, thank you.
Then may I move to the next question? Comes from me, unless we do have questions from the audience. So this is also addressed to Ms. Konstantinidou. How does the planning for the Natura 2000 sites align with the developments of natural gas extraction and the East Med plan within the site, community interest, maritime protected area, Oceanic? I'm not sure whether Mrs. Konstantinou can answer this question or a representative from the Deputy Ministry of Shipping. Yeah.
It's a combination.
Okay, let's take answers both from the two speakers.
The Natura 2000 sites or other protected areas play a key role on shaping the coastal zone management strategy. It's important to, I have shown you on the map, some areas where green and other areas where other colors. So to shape the landward limit, the peninsula of Akamas with a very important Natura 2000 site play a key role to shape the landward limit in this area. And there the landward limit goes up to 9 kilometers from the coast. But for the rest of the question on the maritime special plan, my colleague from the Deputy Ministry will help you. But I have to tell you that having the provision of the maritime special plan law, the land and sea interactions are very important as an activity to be undertaken by the Deputy Ministry of Shipping to shape this maritime special plan. And we have some guidelines from the PAPRAC, the UNEP Center, that will help us to elaborate this activity, the land-sea interaction, how the activities in the coast affect the sea, and vice versa, how the sea's activity have this effect on the coast.
Well, one of the main objectives and targets of the maritime spatial planning is to develop synergies between different activities. So we have to explore, together with other competent authorities and ministries, if there is a possibility for coexistence, let's say, of Natura sites with the energy plan of Cyprus, the energy plan either for gas, either for hydrogen. So we have to explore all the possibilities. Of course, Natura sites will be included in the National Maritime Special Plan. Of course, land sea interactions will be taken into account. And of course, we have to see and we have to decide as a government the development of the natural gas or the hydrocarbons in Cyprus. Thank you.
Can we leave the mic to Mr. Algiris? I have a question regarding, you said that some activities are regulated under the MSP law and some are not. I was wondering whether the blue energy projects are one of the activities that is currently regulated.
What I can say, we are the coordinators of the Maritime Special Planning. We are not the responsible authority for energy issues. The Ministry of Energy is responsible, of course. But as far as I know, there is no any specific law concerning the licensing, let's say, of windmills at sea, or wave energy, or wind, or current, or thermal, whatever. Actually, in the policy statement that is currently under development, we have included, together with the ministry, in cooperation with the Ministry of Energy, we have already included targets related to renewable sources of energy.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Okay, thank you. To Mrs. Constantinidou, I would like to ask also how the Department of Environment will be involved during operation if we have a project or a park here in Cyprus. What will be the role, let's say, of the department during operation of the, not during licensing, after the installation of the, if we have a project here, a park here in Cyprus?
Yes.
In terms of monitoring, I don't know how.
Yes, I know. Our role is mainly during the licensing procedure to assess environmental impact assessment, to assess the environmental impacts from this project in offshore or onshore. So we have this procedure in line with the licensing process, either through the MSP committee or if there is a law in place in some years under the relevant authority. But we would like to have some input from your projects to enhance our policies in this energy sector. The unit, the climate unit in our department is responsible in collaboration with the Ministry of Energy are implementing the national strategy on energy and climate up to 2030. Mm-hmm. They have some actions in place to implement, so we can assess your proposal and come back to you.
So, yeah, this is a follow-up question going to Mr. Spiridis. You have presented that various of projects are undergoing or were considered for different scenarios. One of them is exploitation of natural gas or other resources, and the other one was electrical interconnection that is possible with another country. So, as you said, the interconnection is a very promising investment in order to increase the share of renewable energy sources into the energy mix of the country, with the possibility of also exporting electricity to other countries. So how these can be related with the further exploitation of blue energy, and also how this is also linked with energy storage projects here in the coast?
The interconnection project, if it materializes, it's a private initiative, so it's not up to the government of Cyprus or any other public authority to decide. If it materializes, it is a game changer into how the energy mix may develop. As we said earlier, it provides new opportunities for any renewable energy producer to enter the energy mix, which and the grid, which will have less limitations. Not considering, especially if we consider that today we have many limitations due to reserve provisions, minimum stability of stable generation levels of the current fossil fuel units, the thermal units. So the electricity interconnection can be a game changer towards these current limitations. Therefore, new projects like wave energy or offshore wind or PVs throughout Cyprus can be used, driving the renewable energy share towards 100%. It actually changes it. It changes to about 50%, to almost 50% without considering exports. So this can be a game changer for Cyprus. However, this is not up to us to decide if the interconnection materializes. I don't know if this answers your question.
Yes, partly, and the second part, so interconnection is also linked with the availability or the need of having energy storage in Cyprus. So in order to meet the 2030 or 2050 RES targets for Cyprus, then we might choose one or another or a combination of interconnection with storage facilities.
The interconnector can affect the amount of storage required. It may affect. However, if we consider that the interconnector is not something to rely on 100%. Energy storage is still required because, I'll give you an example, which I don't know if the policy from the TSO, for example, which is the market operator and the system operator of Cyprus. For example, it might not be accepted for the interconnector to provide ancillary services. Maybe just market energy volumes into the market, not ancillary services. If that happens, then the role remains to the thermal units plus storage or renewables and storage. So it is not something we can answer now, but it may limit storage to a certain extent, but it cannot eliminate storage.
Thank you very much. Luisa,
I have a question.
Okay.
Yes, I have a question actually
of course,
for.
There's people from the audience here
Yes,
in Cyprus
whoever.
questions to
Yes,
the
of course.
speakers.
I have a question, a follow-on for Mr. Spiridis. You mentioned the great new initiative on one-stop shop, and there are two parts to my question on the one-stop shop. Are blue energy technologies included in the one-stop shop? So if a developer were to decide to go ahead and develop such a project, would the one-stop shop allow him or her to apply and get all the necessary permits? And the other thing that I would like to ask, are the energy communities also connected to the one-stop shop? Where for instance, let's say the Larnaca municipality decides that they want to become an energy community, will they apply through the one-stop shop?
Okay. The first question regarding the one-stop shop and blue energy, it's not included right now, but it's only a matter of bringing in the relevant authorities. I mean, for example, today we are in discussion with the Town Planning and Housing Department to implement the special planning, the planning license. Each step would, everything comes one step at a time. It would be possible, and if there is potential, of course, it will be considered to include blue energy into the one-stop shop. Now, the second part of your question regarding energy communities, since the framework is not ready at the moment, I wouldn't say that the energy community doesn't need to be implemented through the one-stop shop. The one-stop shop is intended for providing the licensing procedures. If, as in the example you mentioned, the municipality of Larnaca wishes to create an energy community, there will be a framework available for any municipality or any kind of communities, not limited to communities and municipalities. It could be a group of houses in a certain area which are located together. But the framework will be there after the legislation is finalized.
Thank you.
We have another question from the online audience. Mr. Rogerio Chumbino wanted to ask, is the floating solar being considered in the energy mix? I think this is a question for Mr. Spiridis. And the second, okay, Mr. Spiridis, please first and then.
Offshore wind was included in the database where actually the model had to pick the technology, so it is included. It is a fact though that because of the high investment costs, that the model wouldn't choose offshore wind. Now we know that these technologies develop daily, basically, and so the costs are actually reduced. If it reduces, if it is reduced to the extent that it is possible to provide cheaper electricity, then the model will automatically choose it over the next revision.
Okay, the question was specifically to floating solar, not wind. I don't know if that technology was in the list with the.
I'm sorry. Floating solar was not considered in the first one. So, but it is, because it's an emerging technology, it will be considered in the next revision. It's easy to implement this consideration.
And the second, thank you, Mr. Spiridis. The second part of the question, it refers to the maritime special planning, whether the floating solar has been taken into account when formulating the plan, if an designated area, let's say, was selected.
Well, for the time being, the plan has not been developed yet. As I said in the policy statement, there are provisions for the use of renewable energies. But again, the proposal must come from the competent ministry, the Ministry of Environment. If the Ministry of the Environment decides to reserve a sea area for such uses, yes, we will discuss it in the MSP committee and we'll find the right place in the sea for such an area and for such developments. For the time being, we have not any solid proposal for the Ministry of Energy for such developments. But if there is a potential in the future, of course, we can revisit the plan and we can find the solution.
Okay. I have a follow-up regarding the spatial planning. We've been in touch with companies here in Cyprus that are developing devices, and they actually invest quite a few money to test their devices. either in a more secure environment, in a testing site inside, or in real environmental conditions. And I was wondering what needs to be done in order to regulate, let's say, an area and designated area of testing site. And can this be a purely public initiative, or it can be done together with public and private, let's say, cooperation?
If we are talking about a permanent area for such developments like a smart bay or a smart area, then it should be licensed under the MSP law. But if it's something that is going to be for a limited period of time, maybe there is no need to be incorporated in the plan as such. And I know there is a research committee under the Department of Fisheries that dealing with research, and therefore it might be the proper committee to examine such a project.
Thank you.
And I do have one question for our host, the Larnaca municipality. Mr. Spiridis told us that in few months or in 1 year from now, we may have in place regulations regarding the energy communities and the renewable energy sources communities. So will the municipality of Larnaca be interested in taking this opportunity and cooperate with its citizens and local industries in developing sustainable energy projects here in Larnaca municipality? This is a question. And how this can support your existing strategies for green development and blue development?
This actually coincides with our strategy. I mean, we've shown in the past that we take chances as a municipality, and we are prone to modern ideas and very, very committed to sustainability, and will definitely welcome any cooperation with the proper authorities to promote these new sustainability methods.
Thank you, Mr. Kagatsanis.
May I add a final follow-up, let's say, question to Mr. Spiridis? We've seen the targets regarding RES and promising ones. Do you have a comment for the private sector that is willing to engage or have potential their technology to be used in Cyprus? What if they have to do something that to come in touch with you to discuss, and how can the ministry assist their effort in deploying such projects here in Cyprus?
Okay, the ministry, of course, is available to all interested parties to be a guide. This is what we will do in the context of the one-stop shop. But of course, we are available even today. However, we must take a few notes on this. Renewable energy projects, they have to go, there will be no support schemes, especially in terms of financing from the government, at least at this time. They're all expected to operate within the context of the new competitive market, which will operate roughly in about a year. So all projects have to go towards the market, and once the market is already operating, there will be, we don't expect that there will be many limitations as to how many participants enter the market in a year, or there will be probably no limitations as a free market. So most interested parties have to start with the licensing process, first of all, and they're more than welcome to come to us for initial guidance.
Yeah, thank you. That answered my question.
There is a question? No. I do have also another question for Mrs. Constantinidou. So when you were presenting Europe's maps with the coastal zones and the population density in those areas. Actually, those maps are the same with the target places of the interregional cooperation program of Interreg Med. So it's the same need that brings together the partnership of this project in order to examine the possibility of blue growth and at the same time the protection of the environment, which is one of the key activities of the project. So the question to you is how, if you can propose any ideas how competent authorities from all these member states in the Mediterranean area can work together in order to ensure the development of blue energy projects and at the same time securing the protection of the environment.
Meaning that blue energy projects mainly
Renewable, offshore mainly renewable energy projects.
Yes, yes. This actually is undertaken by the Paperak Center in UNEP. Is developing, has developed a maritime special plans guidelines in collaboration with 7 Mediterranean EU countries and the rest Mediterranean countries. And this actually is our guidelines for helping the Mediterranean countries to develop their maritime special plans. Having said, Kyriakos Aliouris, that the policy statement of the maritime special plan is the policy that will help us to develop the plans. I believe that this, let's say, the Mediterranean aspect, that the guidelines that developed in the Mediterranean countries will be incorporated in the policy statement that it's under consultation and the maritime special plan that will be developed later on. Yes, of course, it's important to have offshore projects, and we license with environmental impact assessment report projects in the sea in relation to the onshore, but we have to take into account also the environment in the sea is very fragile and very important. We have sea biodiversity, and it's very important. So the first action is to be included in the policy statement of the maritime special planning, and afterwards in the maritime special plan, more detail Kyriakos will provide to you. And later on, we will assess all these statements and the plans under the SEA report, the Strategic Environmental Assessment Report. We have limited spaces in onshore, a policy for the spatial planning of these renewable energy sources are undergoing through the auspices of the Ministry of Energy. Iosis Pithidis said before. So we have 2 different plans at the moment that are under development. The onshore, let's say, plan, spatial planning for the renewable energy, and the offshore, the maritime spatial plan that is under development. So this plan actually have to be in line and incorporate their results. This is what we said before, land-sea interactions are very important to have this. And the ICZM strategy tries to incorporate all the policies together to be in line and not to be contradictory, but more or less incorporate. So I hope I answered your question.
Thank you very much, Joanna. Any more questions from our audience here in Larnaca or from our audience online? So otherwise, we can end this Blue Deal first day workshop. Thank you very much for your presence here. There is Andrea, you want to brief us to our next steps? Thank you very much.
Looking forward to see you tomorrow, either online or with physical presence, with the results of the project on the potential of this technology and energy here in Cyprus. Thank you.
Thanks for moderating the discussion. We're just on time, of course. We have reached the end of the first day of our lab. Once again, I would like to thank all our speakers for their interesting presentations. Of course, all our participants and attendees for their questions. We will see you all tomorrow at 10 o'clock in the morning, Cyprus time, for the second day of our lab, which will be focusing on the blue energy potential in Cyprus and how to support its deployment. Goodbye for everyone attending online. We will see you tomorrow. And for the rest of you here, we will see you soon. Bye.